It's August 4th. This is Dave Schroeder. My sister told me that the reason why she thinks that it's important that I do these videos is because my testimony gets out there. I know what I'm saying is hard to understand. This video, I'm going to actually kind of talk about my experience with the weapons, and I'm also going to talk about casting and my experiences with casting because I've only done it twice, but those are the two things that I think areas that most people are probably in the dark with. The weapons. First time I ever got introduced to these weapons, I think I was exposed to these kids. They used to stick me in a room and do stuff that are a lot like these weapons. It's just now, as an adult, they're portable. They weren't when back in the 60s and 70s. They weren't portable, but now they seem to be. Obviously, the first time I started asking around it, it was right after Alan Baer died, and I started asking questions in Omaha and finding out things like Peter Citron, a convicted pedophile who was connected, that drank Drano and committed suicide that way. You know, stupid crap like that. And they didn't like me asking questions, so I got hit with the weapons. I didn't understand what was going on. Lasted about a week. I couldn't sleep. I was sick. I was dizzy all the time. It's not just a buzzing in your head. It's like this whole oppression feeling that's, you're being inundated with microwaves because that's what this weapon is. It hits you with low frequency microwaves. And that's from what I understand. So I went into the hospital, got out of the hospital, and the ex-Omaha policeman that lived across the street from us was the first one to pull me off on my porch and tell me to take everything down. Because I had done a blog. I had started a blog, and I had started doing videos on YouTube. Take everything down, or my ex was going to be next. And we weren't an ex, obviously. And so I did. Second time that happened was it was when the day after I had sent Confessions of an Antichrist to my publisher, and it happened all over again, and they almost killed me. During that time, I watched television. The whole thing about it is I get this argument of I have too much time, I wish I could stay home. And Doug Mesner used to fight. But the fact that I have PTSD, what am I supposed to do? I'm intelligent, so I keep up abreast on the world and watch what's going on in the world. And it's afforded me a lot of time because I see a lot of stuff that's going on through television. So at this time, I found out that they were doing the same shit they were doing to me to the president of Iran. He was so weak that he had to be carried around. That's what they were showing on the news. He had to be carried around. He couldn't sleep. He had same exact symptoms that I was experiencing. So, like I said, I went online, found the email for every Iranian official that I could possibly find, told them what was going on, told them what was happening, told them what to look for, and sent them all that email. And 2 weeks later, it was on the news that Iran had found and executed a spy, and their president was fine. I also uploaded Confessions of an Antichrist right before I had gone to the hospital. I mean, right before. I decided to upload it to my blog because I was going to the hospital so that they could see what was going on because it was being done to me. I got to the hospital and I was fine for 45 minutes in their little room that they had me in. 45 minutes, the last 45 minutes, they inundated me. And I came out of the room, told them I didn't feel well, and I was rushed by rescue squad to Creighton University because my blood pressure was skyrocketing. It was way over a heart attack and stroke level. So they admitted me, and I was in there for 3 days because they couldn't understand why I came in with blood pressure that was amazingly high. But when I got in there and I was put in there, my blood pressure dropped to better than normal and stayed there. And they didn't understand why. And I was telling them, this is being done to me. And I was able to send them to my blog and let them read Confessions of an Antichrist. And I mean, I had doctors and nurses and social workers, and I had them send me to psychiatrist people. Then I went back to the hospital and to the mental hospital. I stayed in Creighton for 3 days, but I was afraid to go home, so I went back to the hospital. And that was a complete and entire fiasco. They locked me up in the real psych ward. And it was a message, don't do this again. And so that was the two experiences that I had. Now, I'll get back to it, but casting was also involved with that second experience. But I want to finish with the weapons. So out in Washington, it started with me letting my dogs in, and the next thing I knew, I had passed out, and I was on the floor of my house in Algona, Washington. And I had been getting emails from Lucian Greaves, founder of the Satanic Temple, Doug Mesner, Doug Masico, whatever the fuck he wants to call himself, telling me to say goodbye to my house because he was going to take it, because they were just harassing the absolute shit out of me. But Doug has a long history of going after survivors. And so I end up picking myself up, didn't think about it. Well, I have one of these people that had befriended me over the phone. And one night she wanted to be on the phone with me the whole night. And I was just like, why? I'm going to be sleeping. She was like, I'm just worried about you. I want to be on the phone with you. So I was just like, okay, whatever. So a little after 3:00, she ends up screaming on the phone about 10 after 3, maybe a little bit before, and wakes me the fuck up. And I'm like, what the fuck are you screaming? She's like, oh my God, I just heard someone on the phone say, kill him. Well, at the very same time, something was being beamed on me. It hurt so bad that it felt like I could feel every one of my organs in my body. And it was absolute, complete, and utter torture. My dogs, all three of them the same age, all of them puppies, all of them completely different from different litters. They all had these weird seizures at certain points in the night. So it was affecting them as well, because they've never had that before again. And the same night that she screams, then the Algona, Washington police show up at my door at like 3:20, saying that someone from Australia had said that I was suicidal, and so they were coming and doing a wellness check on me at 3:20 in the morning, And so I answered the door, but it was bad. And the next 2 months after that were, oh my God, I lost 100 pounds in 2 months. When I went, I just remember Officer D'Angelo, he was an Algona policeman, laughed at me. He was the one when I said that I wasn't taking the videos down on the protection order because they all dealt with Doug Mesner. And he looked at me and laughed and said, oh, we know. During this whole fiasco, he told me, you need to get some weight back, because I was dropping weight. I dropped 100 pounds in 2 months. Then I had people who told me to go look for rocks in my yard. I thought it was fucking stupid. But after some prodding, I ended up going, and sure enough, there were 12 rocks that were in my yard that were never there before. And this is like, I'd lived there for several years. You have to mow all year long. I know what was in my yard. It's not like I had an estate. And I ended up digging out 12 rocks that had been planted in my yard that looked like they had always been there. And all of them had their surface exposed. They weren't just rocks. They were chunks of concrete too. But all of their surface was exposed, and they had this weird black mold all on the surface. All of these rocks had black. And I dug out 12 of them out of my yard, strategically placed in my yard, and got rid of those rocks. And right after that, the weight stopped. I stopped losing weight, and I gained my weight back, And so God has kept me alive through a lot of this. You know, now I'm here. And the same shit. It's killing my sister, but my sister, you know, did it's to terrorize. They say that it's non-lethal. But and Max Spears said that you could get used to it. And when he said that years ago, I thought he was crazy. But he was right. So God only knows how long he was inundated with it. You know, they use it at will. They said they had these weapons, and they were going to use them on American citizens to show the rest of the world they were safe. In 2006, they went in front of Congress, and why did you think they weren't going to use them? So that's my experience with the weapons. So let me talk about casting, because the stuff with MK Ultra and the stuff that Mike Aquino taught me and his group, and I want to get into his group in just a minute, a little bit more. But I've only cast twice in my life. The first time was the second time they hit me with those weapons, right before. It was before I uploaded my book, but it was during that whole time that they were inundating me, that week that they almost killed me. I ended up casting a death spell on the people that I believed were behind it. And so I go to the hospital, come back. Right after that, the woman was pregnant and lost her child. It got strangled with the umbilical cord. And then right after that, the retired Omaha policeman that threatened my my partner at the time, when took at 15 minutes after getting back the first time from the hospital, he laid down on his living room floor and died. But a day or two before that, I had to go with him to take his dog to the Humane Society to be put down. And so, but it was right around the time that I was going to Seattle, because I had just gotten back to Seattle. And then right next door, because this is all neighborhood, bang, bang, bang. What are the chances that it all happens in 3 houses that just happen to be all around me? But the finest man I ever knew, loving husband, wonderful father, helped his kids one day. He was fighting a cold, middle of winter. His kids' vehicle was breaking down, so he switched it. And car broke down on the interstate. He got out, and a semi hit him and ripped him to pieces. Finest man. It was just a tragedy. That was the first time I cast, and I realized I really couldn't So the second time I cast, I have to say it was just an emotional thing. I cast on my ex. We were in our divorce. And I just sent him back the misery that he wished for me. And then I find out that he had lost his job and lost the house and was living in a place that he hated because his life was falling apart. And so I ended up journeying to see what was next. I just was curious to see what was next. And what was getting ready to happen is that he had taken the 2 things that were the most precious to me. And the energy was right at his sister's front door, getting ready to go in and take the 2 things that were the most precious to him. And the issue with that is that it was 2 innocent children that I absolutely adored. And I never have cast again, ever. Ever. That would have just, no. So now I say that when I do it, I take it inside. And people ask me, okay, another example of casting. Perfect example. And this is the first time that I ever tried this. So I'm watching television again because I pay a lot of attention to the news. I just watch world news and what's going on. And funny enough, Johnny Depp had helped this Eccles dude who had been involved with this Memphis 3. I believe they were involved. The guys were involved, but I believe that it was a much bigger group. But Depp had gone out and petitioned and gotten them out of jail because they had been convicted, but then he got them all out of jail. And they were celebrating, and Johnny Depp and this Eccles dude went and got 2 matching satanic tattoos on their backs. So they have these satanic tattoos that were matching. And it pissed me off. It did. It pissed me off. So I journeyed and went to God. And when I say God, for me, it means father and mother. And asked for him to be made an example of, since he wanted to be their, mascot. And I was told, okay, but before I did it, I had to come out publicly and say what I had done. And of course I didn't want to do it, but it was a thing of, I understand now what happened. So I did that day. I went and said what I had done. And Doug Mesner, Lucien Greaves, founder of the Satanic Temple, and his minions, who have always been on top of me, of course, within 5 minutes, not even, I was arguing the entire day, being berated of what a fucking delusional asshole I was, and how crazy I was, and I couldn't say anything because I just did what I was told. The very next day, 2 things happened in Johnny Depp's life. His mother died, and Amber Heard left him. And I'm willing to bet that if you asked him today, his life has not gotten any better from that, because heaven answered my prayers. That's when I started to learn, I can just go ask heaven. That time it worked immediately, That's why I say I believe what is going on, because I have concrete examples in my life of the things that I have experienced. That's why I don't feel the need to convince anybody of the truth. What is important is what I know to be true. And I know they raised me. I have a letter I forgot to bring, but I'll take copies of it. And then at the end of this video, at the bottom in the description, I'll give my blog thing and you can see the letter. They have something called Total Care. This thing has passed in all 50 states. Congress passed it. And basically, there's 3 bullet points. If you're 55 and older and you're on Medicaid, they can take your house, they can take everything in it, they can take your cars, your personal possessions, they can take anything they want if you're 55 and older on Medicaid. And I bet that Medicaid for all is about ready to become a thing. Because in World War II, it was called the final solution. The whole thing about it is that I'm wondering if they'll take the fillings out of your teeth too when you're dead. And they can put, or if they put you in a home, if they put you someplace, they can also take your shit. And I'll get this letter. I got it from Iowa DHS, and I'll put the whole letter on my blog. You can read it for yourselves. And this passed, and I didn't hear anything about it. And I watch a lot of shit, And it says in the letter that it was passed by U.S. Congress and is in all 50 states. All 50 states. And it's interesting because this whole Nazi thing, Fred Trump was at the pavilion, along with Michael Aquino, along with Daddy Bush, who was head of the CIA, Warren Buffett. The people that were at Hummel Park when I was a kid are very well connected, they were very powerful. And they do the shit in front of people. And people's cognitive dissonance turns it away. Like Rumsfeld coming out and saying that the government lost $9 trillion a week before the 9/11 attacks. But the 9/11 attacks, pictures of the Twin Towers being hit and the Pentagon getting hit, are in a card game called the Illuminati card game that was published in the early 80s. And so, unless you really, come on, really, obviously it was a set up thing. They just do it in front of us. And that's what this whole total care thing is. It is not a coincidence that Fred Trump was involved and now Donald Trump is presenting himself as people's fucking savior. Only he is going to protect you from the deep state, And all the while, the Republicans are after. But let me tell you something about what they know, and this is the interesting part, and this is what I'm going to end the video with. The reason why they're talking about the weaponization of the FBI and all of that is because the reason why Donald Trump was so upset about his safe in Mar-a-Lago, everything else was in fucking bathrooms. Classified shit was in bathrooms and stages and stuff like that. So what was in his safe? Well, we can see why the media is Bill Barr is wonderful now. Because what was in that safe is all the shit Bill Barr got off Jeffrey Epstein's island. All of their secrets that Jeffrey Epstein had in files was in Donald Trump's safe. And so when they raided it and took the safe, the contents of the safe, that's why Donald Trump was so upset. Because we're at the end. Everything that's been hidden is coming to light. Everything that's being hidden is coming to light. And they can send out letters saying that they can take all your shit. I know that these Nazis believe that this prophecy that a great beast who suffers a mortal blow will rise back to power. And to them, that's the Nazi party. It suffered a mortal blow in World War II, and now it's rising back to power all over the world. The issue with it is that it's rising up to power and claiming power on a world that is going to quickly become nothing but ash. It is already on fire. So, that's all I'm going to say. It's not a coincidence that anything is happening. None of this is a coincidence. And Donald Trump is just connected as everybody else. But now law officials have all of their secrets that were in that safe, and they can use it because if they find crimes, when they're investigating another crime and they go into it, they can use all of that. It's all legal. So someone told them what was in that safe, and that's why they raided that safe. So, okay, bye.